Alright, we're back. Where's my controller? Okay, so we have. Ah, shit. We have, in this moment, the letter reading that we have to do. So let's activate our terminal. I think we're gonna start. I'm still trying to figure out how exactly to do this. I'm thinking data, memory chips is how I'm gonna do it first. Unidentified chip. So if I found, like, the keys to these? Weird. God of War original game soundtrack. God of War was a 2005 action game made of the imagery and themes of ancient Greece. God of War was a 2005 action game that made use of the imagery and themes of ancient Greece. Many titles were subsequently released in the series, with the most recent, 2018's God of War, proving to be its true return to form, featuring an all-new story and settings which range from Greece to Scandinavia. Listening to the soundtrack is sure to provide a wind beneath the wings of your imagination, carrying you away into a world where the gods. Wait. Listening to the soundtrack is sure to provide a wind beneath your wings of your imagination, carrying you away to the world of the gods for another epic adventure. And then, The Seven Samurai, a classic work from Akira Kurosawa, who became, alongside Godzilla's Ishiro Honda. Fuck's sake, dyslexia. It's a fun thing. Don't have it. Or don't get it. Classic work from Akira Kurosawa, who became, alongside Godzilla's Ishiro Honda, one of Japan's most globally acclaimed directors. The movie developed a huge cult following worldwide. And the story is retold in the Hollywood classic, The Magnificent Seven. The image of the villagers hiring the Seven Samurai in order to protect themselves strikes a chord with many preppers, living as they do without the support of an organized nation state, and making this a classic, old copies of which are much sought after. And we have a lot of these, which seem to have keys, but I do not know what that actually means in this context. And now we have interviews. Yeah, okay, this is new. Mules and Drone Syndrome from Die Hardman about 2 years ago at Bridges HQ. Bridges' primary objective is to rebuild America, and in order to rebuild, one of our main tasks is to reconnect cities and other settlements by re-establishing a delivery network. Back before the Death Stranding, the comms and delivery networks that once held society together, were what held society together. The whole thing was automated, AI managed, deliveries carried out by drone. The belief was that taking people out of the equation would revolutionize the entire system, but things didn't quite pan out that way. Instead, we started seeing cases of what would eventually be dubbed drone syndrome. It was too much for some folks to accept, leaving anything to machines and nothing for the common man. And indeed, the oxytocin deficiency and hormonal imbalances that we confirm seem to back up that assessment. Humanity needed to be a part of the process, so laws were put in place, and we stepped back into the picture again. And then what happened? All the people put out to work by machines who got called up again convinced themselves society could not survive without them. And that brought a whole new disorder, delivery dependence syndrome, they called it. When the Death Stranding tore us apart, the delivery problem spiraled even further. It wasn't helped any by the fact that chiral clouds prevented planes and drones from flying, which meant that we had to go back to relying completely on human couriers whether we liked it or not. Eventually, delivering goods became all some lived for. They were obsessed, addicted, consumed by the desire to deliver. Over time, they turned into the mules that we know and love today. Humanity's biggest problem? Logistics, from Die Hardman about 5 years ago at Bridges HQ. War and famine have been inescapable parts of human life since the rise of our species. While the fall of America hasn't changed this fundamental truth, it's fair to say that these issues aren't pressing concerns. Can you remember the last time you heard of a prepper dying of starvation, much less someone in a not city? No one's fighting over water or oil or anything else, which isn't to say that people don't occasionally run out of supplies, but it's almost never because of a real shortage, it's usually a problem with logistics. In fact, it was to address such problems that the president created bridges and developed the chiral network. So yeah, no one's that desperate. Everyone's got enough for themselves, which is what led to the real problem. It's all too easy for people to become isolated from one another, and eventually forget that others even exist. People are free to live for themselves, for the moment, without a care for the future. The president understood this better than anyone, and I know just how much it pained her. The chiral network experiments beyond Central and Capital. Chiral network experiments between Central and Capital. One, from Die Hardman, about 1 year and some months ago at Capital Knot City. Madam President, this is your new office from today. The relocation of your official residence has been completed. The entire medical team has been brought along as well. Rest assured that information regarding this move has been shared with on a need-to-know basis only. I understand that following the loss of New York, you wish to direct the reconstruction efforts from Central Knot City, but in light of recent separatist activity from the eastern seaboard, we can no longer consider it safe. We'll see to it that the people continue to believe in you. And Central and Bridges HQ will operate as normal. As per your orders, the network, research teams, and delivery systems management have all been covertly transferred here to Capital Knot City. We are doing our utmost to expedite testing of the chiral network between Link and Central and Capital. Well, while not neglecting your immediate medical needs, of course, this will be our base of operations for the next stage in the fight to rebuild America. The chiral network experiments between Central and Capital. 2. From Die Hardman about a year ago at Capital Knot City. Madam President, I'm happy to report that the trial run was a success. The connection between Central and Capital was established without incident. No chiral spikes or other irregularities. The qubit functioned within acceptable parameters as well. There's still a lot of work to do. Chiral holograms, chiral printing, and data recovery have yet to be proven viable, but the confirmation that data can be sent via the chiral network is a huge step forward for the UCA. Our next step will be to use Cupids to establish connections with other cities. Preparations for the second expedition are already underway. We're still trying to track Sam down, but as soon as he's back with us, he'll be given his new command. Mules and local port... Oh dear. Please no. Okay. Mules and local porters from Die Hardman about 2 years ago at Bridges HQ. When people hear mules, they think junkies driven by a desire to steal supplies so desperately needed to survive. Lucky for us that not all couriers are predisposed to this condition. Not all mules, in fact. They were professionals once, and some still are. Some even complete proper deliveries from time to time. Fragile Express has been known to use them, along with independent porters. For those at risk of losing it, they say the only way to stave off the syndrome is to join the distro organization with strong leadership and support to help keep you straight and narrow. Fuck me running, I'm just gonna reread that. For those at risk of losing it, they say the only way to stave off the syndrome is to join a distro organization with strong leadership and support to help keep you on the straight and narrow. You can strike out on your own, but that's no easy path. There's a reason guys who run solo have a reputation of being bulletproof. 2 seconds. Likes to create oxytocin. From Die Hardman about 4 years ago at Bridges HQ. Before the Stranding, the whole world was connected. There were networks, social networks we called them, that people used to communicate all the time. They shared all sorts of stuff through them. A random thought, a pretty picture, a home movie, you name it. And if you liked something that someone else had uploaded, you let them know by giving them, well, a like. Sounds weird, I know, but that's the truth. Eventually, someone ran tests on the users of these networks and discovered that receiving a like triggered a rush of oxytocin. The theory that it stemmed from a sense of being acknowledged. Even though you couldn't see the person you were interacting with, it still felt like they were accepting you, praising you, and who wouldn't like that? But the same process is at the heart of the mule phenomenon. It's known that an overdependence of the oxytocin rush provided by these kinds of interactions is a factor in porters going rogue. With this in mind, it wouldn't be wrong to characterize mules as oxytocin addicts. In essence, they're social animals at the mercy of validation. Fear is pleasure from Dead Men, about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ. Whether they realize it or not, the people of our nation suffer greatly as a Whether they realize it or not, the people of our fallen nation suffer greatly as a result of the separation and isolation we must all endure. That's why oxytocin supplementation is so vital. However, not all of us require it to survive. In fact, recent studies have shown something very interesting indeed. An increase in the number of people who regard fear not as a stressful experience to be avoided, but a pleasurable one to be sought out. In humans, the amygdala regulates the emotional responses to fear and pleasure-inducing stimuli. Some scientists theorize that because these contradictory emotions are processed by the same region, they may have the capacity to convert one into the other. Conversely, were the two governed by different parts of the brain, such a transformation would be impossible. In an age when threats such as BTs, timefall, and terrorism abound, could the ability to experience fear as pleasure survive as a useful mutation? An adaptation, even? I don't see why not. From Hartman, about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ Lab, Necrosis and the Ancient Egyptian View of Life and Death. The Egyptians believed that we humans were comprised of two elements, the Ha and the Ka, the body and the soul. Various texts expounded upon their nature in detail, but perhaps it is simplest to conceive of them as follows. The soul is what joins the child in the womb and what gives life to the body. It is also that which departs the body upon death, ergo the body is simply a vessel. Should the soul return to it, it will live again. This is precisely what is observed in near-death experiences, a soul separated, albeit briefly, from its body. The Egyptians believed death not to be an instantaneous change of life, but a process by which the soul moves from one realm to another. But this process itself is changed, thanks to the death stranding. Wow. In the normal order of things, when death occurs, the soul vacates the body and passes into the seam. From there, it transitions to the beach, and only then onto the world of the dead. But after the stranding, a soul that has already made its journey to the beach may attempt to return to its body in the world. It was hard to believe at first, but in the process of necrosis provided proof of this phenomenon that was difficult to deny. This is why it is imperative that we must burn the bodies of the dead. The body must be destroyed to sever the link with the soul. Only then will the soul be free to journey on to the world beyond. Chiral symmetry, from Hartman about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ Lab. The word chiral comes from the Greek chair, meaning hand. Compare your left with your right. They seem similar in both size and shape, yes? Now face your palms away from you, and place one hand over the other. Their shapes do not overlap exactly, but place your palms together and voila, a match, as if one hand is the mirror image of the other. But again, if you were to actually compare the mirror image to the hand to itself, we would see that the two are not identical. This is the essence of chirality, the state in which the mirror image of a shape does not match the original. It has been theorized that BTs are mirror images of ourselves. Were we to exist in the same point in time and shape and space, our shapes, as it were, would not overlap neatly on one another, save in reflection. And when our particles meet their opposites, a void-out occurs. The new form of communication we have devised utilizes beaches, which are akin to mirrors reflecting this world to the other, hence the term chiral network. Chiralium from Hartman about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ Lab. You would like to know more about chiralium? Well, wouldn't we all? I'm happy to present the latest theories, but you must be aware that this is all they are. Theories. Chiralium, like dark matter, was born along with our universe and has existed ever since, just not in a dimension we were able to perceive until now. It is the beach that gives us access to this dimension, and with it knowledge of chiralium's existence, not just knowledge of it, of course. We have since observed it coalescing into crystalline form, and recorded measurable physical and mental effects on individuals exposed to it. It has reshaped our understanding of reality, and proven instrumental in the formation of the multiverse theory of beaches. Chiral matter is not affected by the passage of time. As far as these particles are concerned, none has elapsed since the Big Bang. Little wonder why they escaped our notice for so long, until Man and BT first came together in Voidout and left nothing but chiralium in their wake. Many of these claims are yet to be verified, but I believe that this is a fair summary of the scientific community's current consensus on the matter. No pun intended. I shall soon be heading west with the first expedition. I look forward to learning more about chiralium and its connections to the beach along the way. Chiralium Contamination 1 from Hartman about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ Lab. Chiral contamination is the result of prolonged exposure to chiral radiation, which is emitted by chiralium, a substance discovered at the same time as the beach. Prolonged exposure can significantly impact physical and mental health. The effects are not dissimilar from those observed in individuals exposed to extremely high levels of stress, levels which can be fatal even. Such traumatic experiences can alter hormonal secretions, impair immune response, contribute to heart failure, and induce strokes. The most common symptom of chiral contamination is poor sleep quality due to vivid nightmares. If left unchecked, however, it can quickly progress to a more advanced stage, in which the aforementioned issues may be observed. The potential impact of an individual's mental health cannot be understated. The resulting hormonal imbalances frequently lead to the heightened destructive impulses towards the self and others. Those dominated by such urges are named homodemons, the mad ones. In the case of some porters, such as mules, impaired memory and judgment has led them to develop an irrational obsession with their profession, hence the homogestalt moniker. While it would be feasible and preferable for almost all individuals to avoid chiral contamination at all costs, there are those with a demonstrated resistance who need not be so cautious. I speak, of course, of doom sufferers. Chiral contamination 2 from Hartman about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ Lab. Chiral contamination can be alleviated using similar methods to those used to alleviate stress, increasing oxytocin secretion through contact with other people, administering smart drugs, and so forth. In recent years, however, a hormone dubbed lyxin, known to mitigate the effects of chiral contamination while also restoring basic physical and mental acuity, has contributed a great deal of attention from the scientific community. Unlike oxytocin, lyxin cannot be administered externally. It is secreted within the body, but only in response to external stimuli. It is said to be the hormone principally responsible for the positive feelings that occur when one achieves a goal, enjoys success, receives praise or gratitude, or any other form of like from a fellow human being. The discovery of beaches and the concept of death, from Hartman about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ Lab. With the discovery of the beach, the fundamental truth of death was appended. I doubt you'll find many who would deny this. Alas, we can say little with confidence in any objective or scientific capacity, for our understanding of this new realm remains in its infancy, and it is ever evolving, much like our understanding of the universe as a whole. Perhaps the closest thing we have to a working explanation of the beach relates to the conception of a multiverse, but I digress. The beach is arguably both a concept and a reality. A discrete beach is influenced by the mind of the associated individual, and therefore liked to them irrevocably. This is why we have so energetically pursued the psychological, psychoanalytical, and neuroscientific angles when attempting to create a unified theory on the Death Stranding, the beach, and related phenomena. There was a fad a while back in which subjects underwent counseling in order to learn about the beaches, and in doing so gain a greater understanding of the nature of death. Doom sufferers in particular provided excellent opportunities for studying. An interesting theoretical question arose during this period. If a person's beach was a product of their consciousness, might animals have beaches as well? A conundrum on the surface, perhaps, but one quickly resolved. Only human corpses undergo necrosis and become BTs, which proves somewhat conclusively that only a human can possess a beach. 2 seconds. And yet this begs another question. If all that is required for consciousness akin to that of a human, could an AI have a beach? An android? I for one do not believe so. Why? Because the function of our beaches is to connect the world to the living and the dead, and if an entity was never born, it has never truly lived and will never know death. Surely, it cannot have a beach. Let's just double check that was... I'm almost certain... Yeah, no, I was Egyptians' view of the brain from Hartman about 3 years ago at Bridges HQ. It is common nowadays to think of the personality, the mind, of consciousness as a whole, as phenomena born exclusively of the brain. However, to the ancient Egyptians, things were different. They believed that a person's soul, their spiritual essence, resided in the heart. As a result, the mummification process involved the removal of all internal organs save this one, brain included. To the Egyptians, a man's ka was represented by and contained within the heart, whereas the ha were made up of other organs and the remainder of the flesh. Hardly a picture compatible with modern medical science, but consider for a moment that BBs, which porters utilize in the field, the brain-dead still mothers of which they are bound, could it not be said that in turning our attention away from the brain and towards the heart, the womb, the umbilicus, and our quest to grow closer to the world of the dead, that we are perhaps returning to the old ways? BTs are reaching out to us from Hartman about 3 years ago, Bridges HQ. 2.4 million years ago, Homo habilis started to craft stone tools. Hands are so very important, don't you think? Our other sensory organs passively interpret data. Our eyes light, our ears sound, our noses smell, our mouths taste. But hands are different. To touch, that requires conscious action. To grasp, more so. To connect that which is within our left hand to that which is in our right, still more. And the handprints we see when BTs seek out humans, why, I'd say that's just evidence of our otherworldly friends yearning to forge connection. They're reaching out to us, attempting to bridge the gap between the realm of the dead and the living. The chiral network from Mama, about 3 years ago, before the first expedition's departure, at Central Knot City HQ. So the core infrastructure is complete, the basic Cupid-ready chiral network setup is good to go. Now all we have to do is connect Central Knot City to Capital and prove that it actually works. Sadly, I won't be here to see it. I've been assigned to the expedition team's second group, so I'll be heading west with the others. But the people in charge here are the best of the best. They'll have the network operational inside 3 years just as planned, I'm sure of it. And while they're seeing to that, we'll be visiting towns and whatnot across the country and putting facilities in place for when things are finally up and running. Amelie and the others in the lead group, will be forging the connections and laying the groundworks just to make sure everything goes to plan. Afterwards, we'll just need to link it all up with operational Cupids, and that should be that. It's kind of like the Apollo missions back in the day. They used a 3-stage rocket to get to the moon, yeah? Well, we're using a 3-stage process to do something almost as revolutionary. Bridges staff, 2 years ago. Distribution center west of Capital Knot City, by Benjamin Hancock about 2 years ago. In the same place. Distribution center west of Capital Knot City. It's been about a year now since we came here with the rear guard. First, folks did us a favor by setting up the chiral relay and patching things up before we arrived, so we're doing alright. Not so sure about everyone else, though. Folks back home sound kind of freaked out. We don't know what's going on with Central or Capital, let alone Amelie, and how others keep heading west are doing. But something doesn't feel right. What's more, a lot of guys have developed some kind of agoraphobia, like the thought alone of going outside scares the shit out of them. See, the distro centers and way stations around these parts here aren't the ones back east. They're much more isolated, out in the middle of nowhere. Can't help but feel cut off from the world. There's not a lot of staff on hand neither, which means you often have to do the work of 2 guys, which can make it much lonelier too, and then you factor in the terrorism rumors. Is it just me, or does it feel like there's more mules out these days? I mean, don't get me wrong, I know they're not out to get us, that all they want is our cargo, right? Well, that doesn't change the fact that they're not making our work any easier. Especially since a lot of these guys used to be first-rate porters and could run things and could run rings around us if they hadn't, you know. Still, for now, the network systems are up and running, and we aren't just holding out for the day when a second expedition comes through the working Cupid. Till then, we'll keep things chugging along. Not much we can do. For bridges and country, am I right? Timefall and power failures. From Igor about 3 years ago at Central Knot. I volunteered to join Bridges. Signed up with my brother Victor. See, we both remembered when America was still America, When we had planes and satellites, when we were still connected to everyone and everything. The world was different, bigger, and we wanted it back. He was chosen for the first expedition, hit the road damn near straight away. Me, I got told to hang back here in Central, which was okay, I guess. Corpse disposal means you get your fair share of time following the line of duty. You get a sense for it after a while. Sixth sense when the clouds are just about to open up. Of course, the clouds themselves are a big tell, but an inverse rainbow is a guarantee you're in for some shit. There are smaller signs, too. Changes in the air. Smell in the wind. When it hits, you got power outages to deal with. As far as I understand it, which ain't all that far, it's something to do with the concentrations of chiralium causing electromagnetic interference or something, which also interacts with water and kicks up clouds, ozone, which makes the temperature drop like a rock. Anyway, I may be used to timefall, but that don't mean I'm immune to it. Believe me, I'm younger than I look. My big bro would take a lot of pleasure in telling you that if he could see me now. Chiralium coatings from George Batten, about 2 years ago, way station west of Capital Knot. Truth is, we discovered it by dumb luck. Folks had made a point of building cities outside of timefall regions, but the way stations and the distro centers were a different story. No way around it, really. All the exposure meant they'd deteriorate quicker, but when you're keeping an eye out for things deteriorating, you'll soon notice chiralium crystals react when exposed to timefall, which is to say, not at all. They showed no signs of degradations whatsoever, stayed rock solid even after getting soaked. Sort of made sense. Chiralium comes from the beach, right? Over there, time don't pass. Timefall had no effect on the crystals, because they may as well exist outside time. When we ran experiments, that's pretty much what we confirmed. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why not build way stations out of chiralium, right? Yeah, if only. Turns out overexposure to that stuff is lethal. It can't be stored in large quantities, either. Still, it's the chiralium coatings we came up with will do just enough to keep the rot manageable. That's something. Porter's note number 1. To our beloved daughter. An unknown porter. No clue when, no clue where. I hope you'll get the chance to read this one day. Picturing you doing just as I write helps me get my thoughts in order. I won't tell you about your mother. We used to work together way back before you were born. That's how we met. On the road. Making deliveries to try to get America back on her feet. She was from a military family. Raised by parents who taught her to take care of others. Come what may, who gave her the tools... I can do that better. Raised by parents who taught her to take care of others. Come what may, who gave her the tools to do the job right and proper. But sure enough, she was tough as they come, and brilliant to boot. Knew all there was to know about guns, medicine, you name it. But more than that, what drew me to her was her compassion, a burning desire to help those in need. Your mother. She believed this country was once a beacon of hope and freedom, and that it was her responsibility to help bring folks back together. Hearing her talk like that, I couldn't help but fall hard. I would have given anything, done anything, to make her dream a reality. Before I knew it, she'd become my beacon, a promise of what could be. And you're that promise fulfilled, proof of what's possible. Child of my American dream. Memo number 1, I call to arms. No clue who, no clue when, no clue where. We're not done yet. Hardly even started, and far from finished. They think they got away with it, covered up their tracks, and took us out for good measure. No one knows no one ever will. That's what they believe. But we're still out there. Still remember. We still have the stomach for it, don't we? I know I do, and I think you do too. So stand with me and fight. We'll destroy that fake future Bridges is built for us. Reclaim what's rightfully ours. I think that's Higgs. If not Higgs, there's at least one other person. But let's see what From Mother to Daughter is. From no clue who, no clue when, and no clue where. Sorry, 5 years isn't enough time to get... Sorry, 5 years isn't enough time to get your bearings, but... much less live a life. You were the only one I could save. Could only dig graves for the others, and then for you, in the end. Dig and grieve, and try to make amends. All that's left for me is her. My daughter. My sole remaining glimmer of hope. Our future may be broken, but it's not beyond repair. Futures are fragile things, but my daughter is made of stronger stuff. She has what it takes to pick up the pieces and put them back together. I hope. I pray. Now, we've got 11 emails. We're gonna go top to bottom, if that's all fine with y'all. Benjamin Hancock. How's BB doing, Sam? I hope you managed to avoid autoxemia altogether. By the way, I've been wondering, how are your porter grades these days? Getting better and better, I imagine, or maybe you don't really care about that stuff. Well, in case you do, thought I might give you a quick primer, since I know it can be confusing. Bridges has developed a special system to evaluate porter performance, and it focuses on 5 categories: cargo condition, delivery volume, speed, bridge length, and miscellaneous. Obviously, the aim of the game is to get high grades in all 5 categories. If you ask me, though, you should prioritize cargo condition. I mean, what's the point in lugging something halfway across the continent if it's smashed to bits in the process? Sure, some people aren't all that bothered. Some will even let you get away with 50% of the damage or so. But come on! Imagine if you ordered like a dozen thingamajigs and half of them were delivered broken. No, it's definitely better to put condition first. Treat your cargo with care and respect, and you'll be rewarded with more likes. Trust me. That was my motto back when I was a porter. It wasn't always easy, as you can imagine. Sometimes things got dicey, but I learned to hang in there and deliver my cargo in one piece. You do well to bear that in mind, Sam. After all, you got the potential to be a way better porter than I ever was. Nick Easton. Still alive, new guy? Sam, what are you doing out there? For a newbie, you're quite the workhorse, huh? Timefall's probably taking its toll on your equipment, am I right? Maybe some of your kit's not even usable anymore? Don't jump the gun and throw that stuff away just yet. One thing you can do is take your old equipment to a terminal and recycle it. You can then fabricate yourself a shiny new whatever to use instead. Don't know if you're aware, but the whole recycling system's operated by the Bridget Strand Foundation. That's right. The president herself set it up as a means to convert busted tools and gear back into usable resources. On the other hand, if your equipment's only halfway to broke, but you still want to part ways, you could use the share locker and donate it to another porter whose need is greater than yours. You may as well end up getting a like or two for your generosity. Never mind the warm, fuzzy feeling of having helped your fellow man. Of course, the system works both ways, meaning you can snag stuff other porters have put in the lockers too, if you're the one who could do it with a helping hand. Anyways, both the recycling system and the share lockers have their uses, and it's up to you to pick which method best suits your needs at any given moment. You still got a lot to learn. I guess you'll have it all figured out in no time. I got high hopes for you, kid. Whoop. Benjamin H. Distro Center, West Capitol Knot. Have you been taking a break in the private room? You've been working hard, Sam. Porter crate ought to be going through the roof if you keep this up. I wonder, though, how are you BBs doing? Even if you're feeling fine, it might be a good idea to give the little guy a break from time to time. I don't know, can't help but empathize with BBs, I guess. Maybe it's because I'd be one too if my last name began with a B, if you know what I mean. So yeah, head back down to one of those underground facilities, private rooms I mean, and take a load off. That's my advice. Your BB will thank you for it. See you around, Sam. Ludens fan. Thanks for the Ludens, man. You're the best, Sam. You bought me something one of a kind. A Ludens figurine signed by none other than the creator himself. Try printing that out with a chiral printer. The one you've got is pretty cool, but this is a national treasure. Legend had it that these Ludens figure prominently in one of the creator's games. Pre-Stranding humans, Homo sapiens, were obsessed with them, you know. I thought it was through those works that they reached the next level and became Homo Ludens. Apparently what they played weren't games in the usual sense, but since they ain't around anymore, we might never know exactly what that means. But these Luden figures, they were symbols of one game in particular. I guess you could say that by collecting these figures, I'm playing a game of my own. Jake Wind, your hard work is still paying off. Dear Sam, I wonder where you are right now, if it's somewhere powered by our wind farm. If anyone should be benefiting from our work, it's you. Until you brought us into the network, we could only provide power for a small region. Now we can send it to all the big cities and beyond. I'm still not 100% of the details, but basically, transmitting it via the beach means we don't suffer any additional loss due to the increased distances, so it can go as far as we need it to. Good thing we kept the faith in the second expedition and kept this place properly maintained. You made our efforts worthwhile. Can't thank you enough. Casualties of Twilight by George Baton. Hey, Sam. You really helped me out there. Thanks, man. And that book you brought me? It's actually a movie script. I mean, I knew all along, but sorry if I didn't keep you updated. Anyway, it's an interesting movie from an interesting time, back when the world was divided. East versus West, the Cold War, they called it. The movie is Casualties of Twilight. It's about two lovers who were caught up in the ideologies of a global conflict, and about how they destroy the world in order to be together. It's just a short movie, but it's interesting from a psychological perspective. Some people actually say it predicted the death Stranding. I didn't think it'd get mixed up in a consignment of cargo that'd be stolen by mules, though. I really panicked once I heard it was gone. So yeah, thanks for bringing it back. I really appreciate it. Benjamin H. Test order. Why don't you look for some lost cargo? Doing pretty well, Sam Bridges. I guess I should expect nothing less from the great deliverer. Oh, yeah, I heard the stories. Rumor is you're a big Half-Life fan. Once we were reunited, but now we're scattered all together. That's why you've been keeping on working, huh? Anyway, listen, I want you to get some lost cargo for me. You know the river just north of the distro center, west of Capital Knot? Just follow it northeast from the center, and you should find what you're looking for. It's a cube, so it ought to be easy to spot. Probably never seen anything like it before, but I probably wouldn't blame you for being leery. But it's not dangerous. It's actually really important to me. Important as life itself. If you manage to find the cube, it'd be great if you could take it to the distribution center west of Capital Knot. I'll chuck a bunch of likes your way in exchange too, of course, plus a little something extra too. You're the only one who can help me, Sam. I'm counting on you. Nick Easton, Capital Knot, delivery volume, and your porter grades. How are your porter grades these days, Sam? I'm sure you're aware that trying to account for all 5 factors is just the basic premise, but for anything like me, you want to deliver as much delivery volume as you can, am I right? If so, you could always just load yourself up with a massive haul and aim for the bridge's bonus for total cargo weight. Nothing wrong with a simple approach. Of course, in the good old days it was easier. Roads were much better then, so you just chuck all your stuff in the back of your truck and go for a drive. Can't do that now, even if you got a truck. They're usually more trouble than they're worth. Hell, sometimes you'll see them just sitting on the side of the road, locked and abandoned. Anyway, on the bright side, since lugging big loads of cargo is so hard these days, folks are really grateful when a porter manages it, hence the bonuses. Here at the distro center, for example, we have to make sure we got plenty of food and materials in stock, which means that we have to make every delivery count. I dread to think what would happen if we ran out of supplies. Oh, and how about this for some extra motivation? Found that my obsession with delivery volumes actually made me stronger and able to carry more. Well, I said my piece, and you know how to make yourself popular around these parts. Stack your cargo high. George Baton? Your bridge link grade makes the world a better place. Hey, Sam? Sounds like you're still showing us how it's done. I've been making more and more deliveries myself, though. I've been making more and more deliveries myself, all of you know. Oxy really helps you cope with the fear, so thanks for that. But don't go thinking I've got ice in my veins or anything. Still panic easy. Still drop plenty of cargo when I do. Doubt I'm the only one, though. I've got plenty of stuff that some other porters must have lost in a run. Try to do the right thing, take that cargo I can to the nearest post box, and leave weapons and gear in share lockers. Won't lie, sometimes I feel like saying fuck it and letting it lie, but what goes around comes around, right? I help someone deliver lost cargo, someone will do the same for me. That's the essence of the bridge link grade. Most of us will never be legends like you. No shame in that, but if we work together and make connections, well, we can at least make the world a better place, and that's where bridge links come in. Together, we can accomplish so much more than we ever could on our own. A good bridge link grade will only make it all work better. Benjamin Hancock, taking care of your BB? How you doing, Sam? How's your BB? Me? I'm a bit worried, and that's why I'm writing you, actually. You see, I used to have a baby of my own back in the day. I'd jack him whenever went on a run. Standard procedure and all. Thing is, and this is just between you and me, I started to care about my baby. Yeah, I know. I went to all the briefings, just equipment, don't empathize, don't get attached. Yeah, well, easier said than done. Especially when it gave me a like. Piece of equipment can't do that, right? Equipment doesn't like being rocked either, or get soothed on the right. Equipment doesn't like being rocked either, or get soothed by the sight of a spinning ultra deck. Check out your tips if you're not sure how to do stuff like that. My BB loved it when I took us swimming, when we'd just float on the water, but got real scared if we dove in or went under. Like a tool that gave a shit about any of that. Bet your BB is the same, right? Reacts to things in ways that can't be explained away. Man, I miss those days with my little guy. You'll take good care of your baby, won't you, Sam? Oh, what am I saying? I know you will. And Victor Frank, Port Knot City. About my brother. Ever since you told me about my brother, I've been able to stop thinking about him. I want to make one thing clear, though. I don't blame you for what happened. Igor wouldn't either. I know. It's weird, though. We weren't all that close. Back when he was alive, I go weeks without thinking about him, but now? Well, ain't that the way these things always go? You still got that little keepsake of his. Sounds kind of stupid, but I've been thinking of it as like his alter ego or something. You know, it was his dream to go west of the second expedition, right? He never made it, but if his favorite toy does, it almost feels like it would make up for it. At least a little. Show the little guy the sights now, you hear? Lord knows I'll never get to see him. And that's, as far as I'm aware, all of the mail and interviews we've got, and data shards. I'm genuinely enjoying Death Stranding still. Like, I took like a 5-6 day break from streaming, but that was mostly an accident. I didn't intend to go so long without being live, but like physical and mental health, and then just like there was one day where my internet was just like not, it just was not wanting to cooperate with me, you know? So let me see. We had a really good stream actually. You know what? I know exactly who we can raid. I didn't even know they were still streaming. Like, I thought they graduated. Is that correct? So yeah, no. Raid's been created. Okay, right person. So yeah, no, if you stuck around for all that and enjoyed it, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. If you would like to support the channel more directly, there are links below wherever you're watching this to things like the Stream Elements tip link, the community Discord server, and the Throne wish list. I've got nothing else at the moment, though. I'm expect more Death Stranding in the future. I might start another LP on the side. Never know. But at the moment, this is where we say good night. Have a good rest of your night. Thank you. Oh yeah, and these. Thank you.